Fighter jets for Ukraine!
Fighter jets for Ukraine!
Fighter jets for Ukraine!
Air defense 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 for Ukraine!
Coming back to the topic we were covering, the Bashkirs have been protesting against the Russian terrorist regime. And their wives and mothers have sent videos to their sons on the front line, telling them not to fight for the Russians. Because back home, the Russians are oppressing them. They're taking away what little liberties they had left. That is what's going on, my friends. And I think it's very good that finally the many ethnicities of Russia are waking up to the Russian imperialism, to the Russian genocide of the many different countries that could have been, but never were, because Russia never allowed them to be. Just like what they did to the Chechens. When they leveled Grozny to the ground, they would do it to any ethnicity, any minority in Russia. That is the country we're dealing with. And yet, some voices of appeasement claim that we can deal with Russia, that we can negotiate with Russia. Because it worked so well the other dozens of times that we've tried it before. It worked so well in the Budapest Memorandum, where Ukraine gave up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world in exchange of a peace agreement with Russia. It worked so well in the Ukraine and Russia Friendship Treaty, where Russia once again recognized Ukrainian borders pre-2014 and promised not to attack. It worked so well in both of the Minsk agreements, the first and the second, where Russia betrayed them a day after it was signed. Indeed, my friends, it worked so well with Prigozhin when he made a deal with Putin to be left alone, to go to Africa and practice his neo-colonialism in peace. But of course, Prigozhin had to recruit in Russia, because there were still a lot of skinheads and neo-Nazis in Russia ripe for their picking to be sent to the battlefield and to defend the Russian interests all over the world. He was recruiting them in Russia, of course. And of course, as we all well know, he didn't recruit them for very long, because after a short amount of time, his plane was shot down by the Russian terrorist regime. Not because of the crimes that Prigozhin had committed, but because Prigozhin was getting too big for his own pants. He had ambitions. He wanted to be more, and Putin fears that. Putin feared the fact that Prigozhin was telling the truth about what Putin calls a special military operation. Prigozhin himself said that every single objective that Russia had claimed it had to achieve resulted in the exact opposite. Let's talk about the supposed demilitarization of Ukraine. Ukraine's army is more powerful than ever before. Let's talk about the supposed denazification of Ukraine. Prigozhin himself said that they've been fighting the Ukrainians for years, and they still couldn't find these imaginary neo-Nazis. Let's talk about the attacks against the Russian speakers. The Russian speakers who fought for Ukraine continue to fight for Ukraine, as the speakers of different languages in Russia get oppressed by the Russian terrorist regime, just like the Bashkirs, who we mentioned a while ago. And we hope that the many people of Russia, including the ethnic Russians themselves, decide that that's enough. The happy grandpa who's sending you as cannon fodder does not care about you, my friends. You, the people you used to call brothers and sisters. You who backstabbed us when we gave up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. This message is for the Russians. You've been bamboozled, my friends. It's time to wake up. World, wake up!
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 More sanctions on Russia!
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 Seize Russian assets!
Seize Russian assets!
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets.
You know, I've had a very interesting and funny conversation with somebody who long ago I used to consider relatively a friend. Not very close, but not far away either. More than an acquaintance. He's not even an American, by the way, so it's not even his business. But he said that, oh, there's so many problems in America. Why should America send money to Ukraine? Why should they send aid to Ukraine? To which I replied, oh, hold on, before my reply, there's another point he made. He spoke about the homeless, of course. Because before this war, there were no homeless in America. They just appeared out of nothing, out of the ether, when the war began. And somehow he blames the Ukrainians for it. It's ingenious, really. Some of these individuals are truly astonishing in their mental gymnastics. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But this individual was making this point, that they should help the homeless. To which I replied, yes, of course. The homeless will find a much bigger need for all the shells and ammo being sent to Ukraine. I mean, it's going to bring them out of the poverty, obviously. Did he reply to that? No, he didn't want to reply. It's funny, every single time one of the points of these Russophiles gets debunked, they just switch to another point. They don't admit defeat. They don't admit they were wrong. They act as if they were right all along. Sometimes they move the goalposts. Other times they completely shift the topic. So how can we discuss with these people, my friends? With a lot of difficulty, with a lot of patience, but we can. Most definitively we can. Because the truth is on our side. And we are willing and able to tell the whole world what really is going on in Ukraine and how we all can stop this war by helping Ukraine win. All together, we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together, we will win.
Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Self-defense is not offense. Arm Ukraine.
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 There's a shift in mentality that needs to happen in the West. Because the people here have forgotten what it is to be at war, what it is to be attacked, what it is to have people come for your lives, people that cannot be negotiated with, people that cannot be bribed and cannot be treated with, people who only care for your destruction. Those are the people we have forgotten about, because we have not seen them in real life for so long. We've lived in peace for decades, for generations. And that was the price of that peace. The forgetfulness of somebody who does not know how precious peace is and how difficult it is to maintain sometimes. Especially when you have a genocidal neighbor like Russia. But I digress. My friends, we have to remember that we need to unite behind this cause. There are people around this world who fight against terrorism, against terrorist countries like Russia, Iran, and North Korea, against terrorist organizations like ISIS, Hezbollah, Hamas, and many others. We must not forget about these people. Those people are the real heroes who fight against these terrorist regimes, against these terrorist organizations. And it is pointless to try to criticize them, to critique them and tell them they're not fighting them the right way. When you're in a fight, and you punch harder than the other guy. What sense is there in people coming to you and criticizing you if the other guy started the fight? I mean, why did he start the fight in the first place? Very unfortunately, this problem stems to the right and to the left of the political spectrum. The right-wingers confuse short-term benefit and long-term benefit. In the short term, of course, helping Ukraine costs some money. But in the long term, it protects something that money sometimes can't even buy. It protects safety of the countries of the West. It protects freedom. It protects the interests. And it protects the influence of the free world in the rest